Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week I'm trying to router some grooves in timber. See you in a minute. Now, got a few things I've got on the go at the moment, and in 2 or 3 of them I need to router some grooves in timber at regular intervals. Now, some of them it's straightforward enough, it's just like a shelf that I'll want to do a groove across to take a 6mm ply or something, and then do another one 20mm away and another one 20mm away and so on. And there's also one I want to do where I want some diagonally at about, I don't know, probably 30-60 degrees, again at regular spacings. And I've been trying to see how I can make that work on the router table. Just have a quick look at it now on this TWX7 router table, and I'll show you what it is that I'm trying to do and the sort of ways I'm thinking of having to do it. Now, I've had another move round in the shed yet again. I've got the router table actually alongside the MFT now, so that if I want to do long cuts on the circular saw, I can then pull the whole thing out this way towards the door. See how it works. I'm not sure it's the right answer or not, but we'll see. Now, normally cutting a groove, you put your fence up, you've got your router cutter up, and you run your groove that way. And my first thought was to mount the fence a long way away, and then whenever I had a piece of timber that wanted a load of grooves in it, I'd run it through once, and then I'd put some sort of a spacer in it, and then run another one, and then put another spacer, and so on, and that would get me where I wanted to go. Fine. That didn't work so well when I wanted to do something diagonally, because you just end up doing the same thing. So to actually make it work, you'd need to put an angle on the piece of timber, and you'd have an insert that was cut at whatever angle you needed to do. And again, that didn't seem quite the way to do it. Didn't seem a particularly elegant way of doing it. And that would do you a 45-degree cut, and then you could move it along that way, along that plane, but again you've got restrictions with the fence in the way. So then I thought, well, I could cut the grooves on a circular saw, and that way you have a sled and you can run it through and notch it across. And it suddenly dawned on me that because the Triton is a table for using as a saw as well as a router table, I've actually got the grooves in that you would have normally on a saw table. So we'll chuck that away altogether at the moment. If I make some blocks of MDF or something like that that will slide in those grooves, it doesn't matter that they lift out, it's only to locate it laterally. I can effectively do the same as you would for a circular saw, make a table or a flat plate that goes on top with the front and the back rail to hold it together, and then you run the router right through it, so you end up with a slot down the middle, just the same as you would with the table saw sled. And then I can mount the pieces of wood on top, run them through, and then put a register of some sort so that that groove will then have a marker alongside it, and I can just move it along and it will be a set distance, and then run it through again. That seemed ideal, and in addition it means that I could also put a temporary fence on it that was diagonal and do the same thing and just move it up as I wanted to. First step is to cut the blocks that will slide in here. It's fairly important that they are not too sloppy side to side. It needs to be able to slide, but they need to to be a fairly snug fit in there. So I'll try and get that size established, put up a stop block on the chop saw, and then just cut some panels out of the scrap. So the groove itself, it is a T-slot actually. I could make something that slid in and didn't lift, but I shan't worry at the moment. The width is 19mm exactly, and the depth, as I say, I think is 9mm. We'll just confirm that. Exactly 9.5. But if these don't quite touch the bottom, it doesn't matter. So we need to cut some 19mm slices off that. Go over to the chop saw and do that. Now I've made a mark roughly where I think the cut is going to be. I'm just going to use a bit of super glue. I've got a masking tape attached to the back of this bit of MDF just as a stop block. Smear that on there. I've got another bit of masking tape attached to the back of the table. Put the accelerator on that. That means I can just glue that to the back. That should be in the right place, and it'll be removable as well at any time because it's only effectively attached to the back plate with masking tape. And then we can hopefully cut our pieces to size all the same. I've just got to trim the edge of the plywood base plate because it's a scrap off cut and it's a bit of a rough edge cut on that, so we'll just cut that to size. Going to establish the right angle across the aluminium rails. What I've done then is to get the little bit of offcut that I had from that trimming of that board, just to lift these blocks very slightly clear of the table. What that should do is mean that if I put the table down on top of them, they'll be square with the table and they'll be slightly protruding so that I can put some super glue on and then just bed it down on top, and then I can screw them in afterwards to reinforce the join. So those go where the marks are. Just spray the accelerator on the bottom and then centre it up. So that with any luck now, if I lift that up, it should bring up the spacers. That's it. Drill and screw those in now. And then all I need to do is cut the top and bottom rail out of the tulip wood, and I can rip through the middle of it with a router cutter to leave that gap. that's about it as far as it goes. I need to now run that through the router. Now I've just put a screw in there that is the same width as the 6mm cutter. The head of that is the same as the 6mm cutter on the router. I've marked a centre line on the fence and I've marked my 21mm that I need to cut away from it. So with any good luck now we can pop that into there, and using that as a stop for the first one I can then do a cut, and it should be 21mm to doing the cuts across as a spacing. We'll have a quick look at it now. And that's now giving me grooves that are 21, just under actually, 42, 63. It's close enough for what I want. That will enable me to put the grooves in on the both sides of the timber the same, and on other pieces of timber the same. It's all about repeatability really, and I'll just check and see how that works with a bit of 6mm ply off cut. These are for removable shelves, so I want a little bit of slack in there. That's ideal. Well, I hope that was of interest. It's a bit specific to the TWX7 workbench at the moment, but there's nothing to stop you doing that same principle with the normal router table by just making the thing the width, just slightly over the width of your table, and putting a down stand beam on either side and sliding. But it's achieved what I wanted to, and that is to do repeat grooves with set spacings that's adjustable and repeatable. So that will be something that will be coming up in future projects. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I'll see you then. Bye!